Now, welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's The Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Okay, found a article, an interview that Mark Hamill did with the Hollywood Reporter. There are some very enlightening things I think he says in there. He talked about how he didn't want to come back for the sequel trilogy.
Interesting.
What he actually said was, I had real reservations about coming back. I thought it would be a mistake. You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. They really should focus on a new generation of characters. And I thought, well, Harrison's not going to do it anyway. You could see his irritation with constantly having to talk about Han Solo. Once I saw in the press that he had accepted, I felt like I'd been drafted, because if I'm the only one who says no, I'll be the most hated man in nerddom.
Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong. People would
Yeah,
have been
people go, why didn't he
disappointed,
come back?
upset. Yeah, especially with Harrison Ford coming back because Harrison's the one we all thought would never. I mean,
Well,
he's really said he didn't
didn't
want to do it anymore.
we talk about at one point in time that Harrison came back because they said that he could have his Indiana Jones
Yep.
that he wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look how that turned out.
So they bribed him. Where's Mark Hamill's bribe? He just had to say yes.
Yeah, because you don't have to bribe Mark Hamill. I mean, he's not. Over the years, he's been saying, "Oh, I won't come back." Like Harrison Ford has kind of made it clear, "I'm not doing this again." Where Mark Hamill seems to have embraced and loves the character,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think there's a different expectation around him than there was Harrison.
I'm surprised they didn't talk about it first, because we always hear how they were always so close and they're kind of look at each other as friends,
Yeah,
and yet no one talked to the other and been like, "Hey, so have you been approached by Disney for another Star Wars? What are you thinking? This is where I'm at."
yeah, that's interesting that Harrison didn't contact him and say, "Hey, I'm about to take the role." That's
Right, because
terrible.
it really is. But I'm surprised they didn't have a little chat with each other to discuss things first, because those three hold a lot of power over what the script would have entailed.
Oh my God, they hold all the power. Yeah,
If they say no, it changes the movie 100%.
yeah.
They set it farther into the future. They don't have to worry about tarnishing Luke's legacy. The fact that he had to, and
Like
then
he knew that he was cornered.
Yeah,
Like if the other two say yes, like he's because again the fans would expect Harrison Ford to say no.
yes,
But we would
everyone
never
did.
expect Mark Hamill, and we'd be disappointed if he did. We'd accept Harrison Ford saying no for some
At the
reason, but
same
not Mark
time,
Hamill.
why couldn't he have somehow worked into the contract that he gets final say on what happens to his character or something?
I'm going to assume he didn't think they would have him doing what he did, that they would not use him in the first
Well,
movie, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
who knows what
Even
they
if he
said to
got
him.
to see the script for the first movie, there's nothing in the first movie that tells you that Luke's like a bad person.
No, it doesn't imply
It's not
that
until the
he's...
second movie that they destroyed him.
Yeah. But I mean, he probably had no idea what they would do with him. I mean,
Probably
they
not, no.
probably when they approached him, they're like, "Yeah, we got big plans for you." This is, I'm sure
They signed him onto
sweet-talked him.
a three movie deal contract when the second and third movies hadn't even been written.
Well, no, even the first
Let's be
one
real.
probably hadn't been. I
There
forget
was
when
probably
exactly.
an outline.
No, I don't think so. I forget when he got. I thought he got on board first too. I thought he was on board years. Maybe I'm getting my timeline wrong, but
Well, he says that Harrison got on board first. That
Okay.
he saw it in the press, and then he had to turn around and say yes. You don't think he's just trying to save face, do you?
nah, I don't think so. It'd be hard to lie about that because there's so much evidence that could be found. But then again, people lie with tons of evidence
Like,
anyway.
he said
So
he saw in the press that Harrison had accepted before he accepted.
interesting.
Well, then they also asked him, and this is a good question, if he didn't want to come back for the sequel trilogy, why did he come back for The Mandalorian? He said, the reason I did Mandalorian was that Luke had a beginning and an end. There was no middle. It was like making a trilogy about James Bond as a young boy who first became aware of the Secret Service and wanted to be a part of it. Part 2 has him training to be an agent. Part 3 is earning his license to kill. The end. No Russia with Love, no Dr. No Goldfinger. You never get to see Luke as a master at the peak of his powers. He was the most idealistic character in the series. He was someone who would take adversity and double down and come back and counter his setbacks. We didn't see any of that. So when I got a chance, I thought, geez, this is wonderful. I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, boy, do they get Star Wars. They get it. They're speaking the same language that George did in a way that I questioned in the sequels.
I mean, I think he's right. I think the intent with Filoni and Favreau is to honor Star Wars. Now, you can argue that they don't necessarily pull it off all the time, but I think the intent is usually or almost always there with them. And I'm sure when he saw that, like, I get to come back and be the Luke Skywalker that I think everybody wanted and imagined in the sequels, yeah, I'll do that. And we've heard before, he was disappointed with what happened to
Mm-hmm.
Luke in the sequels. That wasn't Jake Skywalker. That was
Yeah,
his
that's
quote.
where
This
Jake
isn't, yeah,
Skywalker comes
it's
from.
not some fan who made that up. That was what Mark Hamill himself said.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like we said before, it's a character he loves. He thanks his career for it, I'm sure, whether there's always been good or bad.
I feel like it was also a chance for him to maybe redeem the character, not just in the fans' eyes, but in his own, to go, this is the Luke Skywalker I want to be.
No, I agree with that entirely. I don't, like I said, he was disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And he had every right to be disappointed to come back and play grumpy old Luke for a movie and then
Yeah.
have this change of heart in the end and then die.
And then it was after death that he felt more like Luke again, because
Everybody was like, that wasn't Luke. And
That
so
wasn't
they were
Luke.
like, I mean, I hate to try to defend J.J. Abrams and The Rise of Skywalker, but that was an impossible task. He tried to fix so much in that movie that had gone wrong.
tried to get it back
previously.
on a trajectory like he originally probably saw for the movies.
Yeah. It was truly an impossible task. Not that he isn't partially to blame for The Force Awakens, and I'm not saying he's the greatest director and writer
Right.
ever.
It's
otherwise,
not a perfect movie, but the middle of the trilogies is what messed everything up. It took such a sharp turn, an entirely different direction and feel from the first movie, and then again from the third, that it sticks out in an uncomfortable, odd way. It felt like there were a lot of moments in The Last Jedi that Ryan Johnson simply threw in. He wrote, like, I want a really cool sequence where Rey sees herself in the mirror over and over again with the snapping. Oh, I want a cool sequence when a ship just explodes in space in a really different way. And he wrote the movie around these sequences almost that he wanted to do, because cinematically you can say the movie is actually beautiful, but the story seems to have curtailed because he wanted these big moments that don't make sense.
no, I agree. I've said before, I feel like he wrote the story backwards, meaning he had, like you said, he had these kind of moments or scenes in mind, and he was like, how do I get there? How do I get my movie to the Holdo maneuver, to Luke and Kylo, but Luke isn't actually there, and that's my big twist. Like, he didn't fight him. Ha ha,
Yeah, we have to
gotcha.
put him on this planet with the stuff on the ground that's salt that has
Yeah.
red underneath, so you can tell that Luke isn't kicking it up.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with writing knowing exactly where you're going. I'm not saying that that's a bad way to write, but it feels like he railroaded them. It's like D&D when you're the DM and you're like, oh, I this is the moment where my characters are going to discover this, and this has to happen just as I want it to. And so you proceed to railroad your characters, as they call it. You make them choose the things you want to choose, whether they like it or not. And that's what I feel like. He just took the characters exactly where he wanted them to go for his moments and didn't really consider how the characters would actually respond in some of these situations, or how they would be. Like, Luke Skywalker is going to be a broken old hermit because that's what I need him to be to get him to this moment, not because I think that's what he would actually be.
Right, because he thought that would be more character development for Rey than having somebody that she could learn to trust. Rey's character in The Force Awakens was a character who couldn't trust people, right? She always wanted to do things by herself. She didn't trust. In the second movie, all they had to do was have her go to Luke for help because she knows she needs help. At the same time, she doesn't trust. She could have learned in that movie how to trust people, so that when she returns to the rebellion in the final movie, she has learned to trust people and believe in her friends, which she did not do in the first movie very well.
I agree with that. It felt like a natural progression to have Rey really doubting Luke instead of the other way around.
He could have gotten her to trust him, trust in the Force, trust Leia, to begin a healing of sorts for her and her broken childhood.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're done rambling for now. So that's all we got for you this time. Your turn to take to the comments below. Tell us what you think about what Mark Hamill had to say, and let's talk some Star Wars. And so until next time, thanks for watching.